Welcome to the NBA Triple Double Show powered by SportsMemo. NBA is back after that it seems like a long All-Star break. I'm your host, Ronald Cabang, also known as UCapper on SportsMemo.com, at UCapper Sports on Twitter. I'm going to be joined by Moneyline Matt today. A true triple double show with me and Moneyline Matt hosting. We couldn't get Joe on the show today with us, but hopefully everything's going well with him. I know he has some issues with, I believe it's Dice, is one of his dogs, and always thinking about his dogs there. We love having Joe on the show. I feel like he's been really hot on the show, so would have been nice to have him on, but obviously he has to take care of, his dogs there. With that said, I mean, we have a big slate today. We're going to be breaking down three key games today. But before we get into those games, I do want to talk about one of the promos we got going on over at sportsmemo.com. We got a promo 7-day NBA pass for myself, Matt, or Joe D'Amico. The promo code is HOOP7. That is for just $39 for a 7-day NBA pass. Once again, that promo code is HOOP7. 7-day NBA pass for myself, Moneyline Matt, or Joe D'Amico. You can check out all the amazing deals going on over at sportsmemo.com. We also have the live odds page, everything that goes on over at sportsmemo.com. Free picks, odds page, like I mentioned. You could see how everyone's doing. There's a leaderboard and all what's going on as far as like hottest plays, who are on the top leaderboard. When I say the leaderboard, there's actually a 3-day leaderboard, 7-day, and a 30-day leaderboard as well. So check over at sportsmemo.com after the show. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button before you go as well. It does only take a couple clicks, but it helps our show grow tremendously here. With that said, let's get Matt up in here with me. Matt, I mean, like I said, man, it seemed like a long All-Star break without the NBA, but first show back with the triple double. We've been running hot. I was telling you right before the show. I actually went back and I've hit 8 of the last 9 bets. You've been like pretty much hot all season long with the best bets. How's everything going? You miss NBA, man?
Oh man, I can't tell you how much I miss the NBA. I even bet the All-Star game, so you know I was missing the NBA if I'm betting that game. But we're on a good run right now, man. I'm feeling pretty good. You know, the best bets have been running very well. Within the NBA, I'm on a 10-2 run, so seeing things really good right now, especially the player props. You know, we hit another free bet yesterday on Sports Memo today with Franz Wagner over 17.5. And that's one thing, like you and I, we're giving out free plays almost every single day, and we're hitting a lot of these. So pay attention to Sports Memo, pay attention to Wager Talk. Great to be back on the show with you, ready to break this down, because I think the last episode, too, where we all had like almost the same exact picks, we almost swept the board once again. So, you know, this show's running really hot right now.
Yeah, let's get into it. We got 3 key games today, and the first one up is the Heat and the Bucks. Heat 32-27 on the season, on a 2-game losing streak heading into the All-Star break. This is the first of a 3-game road trip, also first leg of back-to-back games. They got the Hornets on deck, then the Sixers after that. The Bucks on the other side, 41-17. They're on a 12-game winning streak. This is the first game of a 2-game homestand, and they have the Suns on deck next on Sunday. Possible look ahead there. As far as injury reports, Lowry is out for the Heat. Jovic and Yurtseven are all out. Harrell is on the injury report, but he is probable. On the Bucks side, Wesley Matthews is out. Connaughton and Giannis are doubtful from what I see on this report here. They faced each other 3 times so far this season, and the home teams won each time. Matt, are we looking at the home team taking care of business again today, even possibly without Giannis?
Yeah, so for me, I'm actually looking at a total bet here. And, you know, in this spot, the Miami Heat are traveling on the road to face off against the Milwaukee Bucks. And this is the first game back for both teams. You know, like you said, the Bucks will potentially be without Giannis Antetokounmpo and Pat Connaughton. The Heat will be without Kyle Lowry and potentially without Tyler Harrell. For me, due to this layoff and being potentially without some key players who produce a lot of the offense for both teams, I actually like the under 219 in this spot. It's definitely a little conflicting from both sides. You know, the Bucks are 19-10 to the over at home, while the Heat are 12-18 to the under while on the road. But like I said before, once again, we have potential to be without Giannis Antetokounmpo, who does produce a lot of the pace and a lot of the scoring for this Milwaukee Bucks squad. Without Giannis, I do think this team slows down a good amount. And with the Miami Heat, they're going to be potentially without Tyler Herro, who is a 20-point per game guy. The Heat are also one of the slower teams in all of basketball, with the 22nd ranked pace throughout the NBA. And when both of these teams have already faced off 3 times this season with Giannis, twice they have gone to the under on top of that. So again, when you dive in a little deeper, taking a look at both teams are also top 5 in defense. The Milwaukee Bucks are a faster team in terms of pace, but once again, I think a lot of that pace lies with Giannis. He's one of those guys who gets that rebound, sprints up the court as fast as possible, and he either attacks or dishes out to that corner. With one of the 3-point shooters like Connaughton, Grayson Allen, Brook Lopez, whoever it may be. So for me, I personally think this is a spot where I'm going to be looking at the under 219 here.
Yeah, that's a solid look there. I mean, obviously without Giannis, they're going to be missing a lot of pieces, a lot of their offense there. One thing that I did notice, though, because obviously Kyle Lowry is going to be out for the Heat. Giannis is doubtful, so I'm assuming he's not going to play. So the way that I looked at this was, how did these teams do without these key players? And when I looked at the Heat here without Kyle Lowry, they're 10-5 straight up, 4-9-2 against the spread. But I looked at a more specific situation here where the Heat were dogs without Kyle Lowry, and they're 0-3 straight up and against the spread in that spot. That includes a 115-123 loss to the Bucks in February. The difference is, though, Bucks will be without Giannis. And if Bucks and that, so in that case, I looked at the Bucks without Giannis. Bucks without Giannis as favorites, specifically as favorites, 6-1 straight up and against the spread in that spot. One thing that I did notice before the All-Star break, Middleton's minutes were starting to ramp up right before the All-Star break. He started to hit the 25-minute mark. And with Giannis out today, possibly or more likely out today, I feel like he's going to play heavier minutes, especially after the All-Star break. That was a long rest for him. So hopefully he does hit at least the 30-minute mark. And I'm expecting him to come out strong out the gate in the second half of the season. The other thing, too, the Bucks closed out the All-Star break with a strong game from Brook Lopez. He had a really great, I think he was like 30, he had like over 30 points against I think it might have been the Bulls if I'm not mistaken. But as far as pace of play here, he's not going to get run off. So he should be able to have a good matchup here against this Heat team. And he should be a key contributor in this spot specifically. So I think I'm going to look towards the Bucks here. The line is short. I know Giannis is out, but I just feel like the Bucks have the pieces to be able to take care of business here. Yeah, I believe it's at like 1.5. Let me just double check here. Yeah, it's at 1.5 right now. I feel like the Bucks can take care of business here at home, even without Giannis. I know Heat is obviously one of the better defensive teams, but they have kind of been struggling on the road here. So that's the way that I could look. I know you looked at the total, Matt, but do you have a lean on the side at all?
Yeah, I'd be with you with the Bucks there. This is a Bucks team who their core has been together quite a long time. Like you said, Chris Middleton, minutes starting to ramp up. He's one of those guys who, when he gets it going, when he sees a couple buckets go down, he's one of those guys who can take over a game and help to produce on that offensive side. And then you have someone like Drew Holiday on the other end. Drew Holiday is a very inconsistent player, but he's one of those guys who does play very well against the Miami Heat. It's a slower style game. He's one of those guys who can get into you, frustrate you as an offensive player, things like that. So yeah, if I were to go anywhere, I would go with the Bucks. I think the Bucks are the more consistent team at this time, and a lot of the time at this point in the season, that's what I look for, is the consistency of the ball club. And even without Giannis, this team has played a lot of games together with Giannis, without Giannis. So that's the look that I would go with as well.
All right, love it. Let's move on to this next one here. We got the Thunder and the Suns. The Thunder 28-30 on the season, coming off of that 1-point OT loss last night to the Jazz. They had 4 starters with 36 or more minutes yesterday, including SGA, who played 40 minutes. It'll be interesting to see who plays today, since they are in the race for the play-ins. I'm not sure if they're gonna have those load management and all that stuff. These guys are young for the Thunder squad, so I'm expecting them to play. But obviously, if SGA sits after a 40-minute game, that's definitely gonna hit the line here. All right, also the total. On the Sun side, 32-28 on the season. Heading into the All-Star break, they did have a loss to the Clippers at home. They are the more rested team, obviously, with the Thunder playing back-to-back, especially with the OT game. But they do have the Bucks on deck on Sunday, so that might be a look ahead for them. As far as the injury report, I haven't seen anything yet. On the Thunder side, we should get an update in the next few hours. On the Sun side, they're not going to have KD or Shamit. Payne is on the injury report as questionable, and he's been missing a lot of games lately. So I'm sure he'll probably need to ramp up his minutes, even if he does play today. It is the first matchup of the season for them. Where are you going on this one, Matt?
Yeah, so for this one, it's something very similar. Coming out of that All Star break, I actually do like to target some unders here. And with the Thunder being on a back to back, and this being the Suns' first game since the All Star break, I'm actually looking at an under once again. The over under in this spot is 231. I do expect there to be a little rust in this matchup. And for both teams here, the OKC Thunder, they're going to be fully healthy. And the Phoenix Suns, everyone but Kevin Durant, of course, and like you said, potentially campaign. The Thunder are a team that do run a faster pace throughout the NBA, so I'm sure that's what a lot of people are looking at and maybe potentially thinking the over here. But for me, when you actually look at this Thunder team, they are one of the best defensive teams in all of basketball. And leading into the All-Star break, we're actually a top 10 defensive team in all of basketball in addition to that. And then on the other hand, you take a look at the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns are run one of the slower paces in all of basketball and are also a team that is very solid defensively. So I do think they match up well with this OKC Thunder team. This Thunder team is very small in the interior, running both Jalen Williams and the other Jalen Williams. I believe the center, Jalen Williams, or I think he's a natural power forward, actually, but he's only 6'9", and he's going to be going against DeAndre Ayton. So they're going to struggle to score inside in this matchup. And, another look might be the Thunder under team total. The Thunder are one of those teams where it's always tough to bet against them because they're so scrappy home, they're so scrappy away, and, they're just very defensively sound. They're just a team that meshes very well. But I think this is one of those spots where coming off of that back-to-back, went into overtime against the Jazz. You saw a huge output game from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So I think they're in a tougher spot to go out and score. They don't have a ton of other guys who can score the basketball outside of Shai. Giddey's not really one of those guys who will go and get you 20. Luguentz Dort will once in a blue moon get you a 15 or 20 piece. So for me, I do like the look of this under here. The Suns are coming in off the All-Star break, might be a little rusty. Thunder on a back-to-back, two slower teams, two top 10 defensive teams on top of that. So for me, I think this 231 is a little high, so I'm going to be going under here.
Yeah, I like that look. I do like that look because if you look at the last 10 games before the All-Star break, the Suns were a top 6 defensive rated team in the league. And then, like you mentioned, the Thunder with that less rest disadvantage here playing OT against the Jazz yesterday. I do like that look. The one way that I was looking from the side perspective, I do think that the rest advantage will be huge here for the Suns. And I looked at different situations here. The Thunder, they're 4-1 straight up and against the spread following OT games. The one game they lost and failed, though, was a game that was where they played back-to-back, second leg of back-to-back games. That's the exact situation they're in today. They ended up losing to the Houston Rockets, of all teams, by 13 points. And that game was also on the road. That was the only road game following an OT game. So very similar situation here, but obviously the Suns, I feel like, even without KD, without the full roster, they should still be the better team, a better team than the Houston Rockets there. The Suns, what I looked at them with the rest advantage. They typically take care of business in that situation. Teams versus teams on the second leg of back-to-back games, they're 9-2 straight up, 7-4 against the spread. Average margin in those games plus 9.3. I also looked at the Suns versus teams with following an OT game like the Thunder are today, 2-1 straight up, 3-0 against the spread. The one game they did lose, they lost to the Cavs. They didn't have Booker in that game, and they were also on the road, so they were the dog. But they still covered that game. They were 5-point dogs, but they still covered that game. So a lot of things to me says that the Suns will take advantage of the rest here, and they take care of business. They should be able to win and cover here. I know it's a larger line, especially with KD still not playing. But I think the other thing too, Matt, I don't want to get your take on this, but the news of KD, being able to play, I think they they dated March 1st. They picked March 1st as his comeback date. I think just having that news of him being able to play really soon could give them some momentum heading out of the
Yeah.
break here. What are your thoughts on that? Like those types of news where it's good news, right? Like you would
Hmm.
think that the team would have some good hopes going into this game.
Yeah, personally, I would think it motivates you. I think you want to get
Mhm.
on a streak heading into, that date when KD does return. And I think as a team, you want to have, you want to be gelling on all cylinders. You want to have that chemistry going for when KD is slid into that lineup. Because even when me and you have discussed it, and I'm sure players and coaches, aren't that don't ignore it either. When key players are added to that lineup, you want a little bit of a cushion because it does take a second to get that chemistry to gel, to start running on all cylinders. So I think you definitely do want to string some wins together because once KD does come into that lineup, I don't know. They might just be so damn good that it doesn't even matter. They're just that skilled, with guys like
Yeah,
Devin Booker who can
yeah.
get 60, KD who can get 60, Chris Paul who can facilitate everything. I don't know. I think we're all very excited to see this team, and I think the Suns got to be looking forward to it just as much. So I think they definitely want to get on a win streak, like you were saying, and just have some momentum going into that date.
Yeah, I like it. I like it there. Let's move on to this last one. We have one last game here, the Kings and the Clippers. I believe it might be the last game on the board here. Kings 33 and 25 on the season, which puts them third in the West. I think that's a huge surprise to a lot of teams or to a lot of people here. Coming off of that big win over the Blazers last night, the Blazers were shorthanded though. They didn't have Lillard or Grant. Other than Sabonis, no one played over 25 minutes in that game. So they should, even though they're on the second leg of back-to-back games, some of the players should be well rested. Clippers are right behind the Kings in the standings. They're in the fourth spot in the West. They were on a 2-game winning streak heading into the All-Star break. They do have the Nuggets on deck, so that's sort of to me, a look-ahead spot there. But at the same time, the Kings are ahead of the Clippers here in the standings. So not sure they actually do look ahead to the Nuggets. They might need to take care of the Kings here to make sure that they stay in good position for the playoffs. Because I think like 12 to 4 or 5 in the rankings in the West, there's only like a 4 or 5 game difference between those 8 spots. So it's going to be tough. I think they're going to need to take each game pretty seriously here. So I don't think any look aheads for the Clippers there. From an injury perspective, I don't see anything on the Kings side yet. I don't think they'll be sitting anyone because, like I said, only Sabonis played more than 25 minutes. Zubac is out for the Clippers. That's a big minus there for the bigs. Matchup wise, they have split the season series so far. Both road teams getting the wins. Also, both games going under. Are you looking at a total in this one, Matt, or are you looking at a side here?
I'm actually looking at a side here, so this one's a little bit different. This is a spot for me where the Kings are traveling on the road to face off against the Clippers, and this is a spot where the Kings are on a back-to-back, and like I said before, a lot of teams are playing their first game since the All-Star break, and that's exactly what the Clippers are doing here. In this spot, the Kings are going to remain fully healthy, to your point, and the Clippers will be without a Zubac. I was going to try and say the first name, but I forgot. But with that being said, they do have Mason Plumlee now, who is a very solid backup. He can come in, fill that void as long as he doesn't get into foul trouble, which against the Kings, I generally don't think you will. They like to shoot from the outside. They have a lot of three-point shooters. They do have Domantas Sabonis, but he is someone who likes to facilitate the offense, and they kind of like to run through him and De'Aaron Fox. This is a spot where the Clippers are going to have the -6.5-point spread, and that's where I'm looking in this spot. I really do like the look of the Clippers here. Again, this is a Kings team who is on a back-to-back, and they are 5-4 against the spread in back-to-backs on the season. The Clippers against the spread at home are 13-15, while the Kings are 16-12. So you do think the Kings might have a little bit of an advantage there. But this is a completely new look Clippers roster from the bench perspective, at least I should say. You have to remember that this is a team that will be adding Russell Westbrook, I believe, to the starting lineup. And, typically I would not like that. But the fact that Paul George and Russell Westbrook have played together before, I have to imagine you have a serious conversation with Russell Westbrook about his role with the Clippers. So I don't think we're going to see Russ come out and just go absolutely crazy. You know, that typical 5 turnover game, or God forbid, you see him make 1 3, and then you're like, here we go. He's just going to start chucking up every single shot. I don't think we're going to see that anymore, if I'm being honest. And the reason that I like the Clippers so much here is actually because of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I think Paul George and Kawhi Leonard both match up very well against this Kings team. They're both lengthy wing defenders. And coming into the All-Star break, Kawhi Leonard was playing his best basketball of the season. And I think it definitely carries over heading into the playoffs. So I think Kawhi matches up very good against this team. You know, he'll be matched up with maybe Harrison Barnes or Keegan Murray. So I definitely think those are two good matchups for, again, Kawhi or Paul George. Then you look at this Clippers bench. This Clippers bench has become maybe the best bench in all of basketball in my eyes. You know, now they're moving Terrence Mann to the bench. I believe he'll be running point off that bench. But then you also have guys like Eric Gordon, Norman Powell as well coming off that bench spot. And these are guys who can really fill it up on top of that. You still have Nicholas Batum. You still have guys like Robert Covington. And Bones Highland is now slid down to that third point guard spot. And, you know, I understand he's a little undisciplined as a player and stuff like that, but he's still a guy who can go out and get buckets when you need him to. You just kind of have to rein him in. And honestly, Russell Westbrook might be a good ad because they're very similar in the way that they play and just chucking crazy shots sometimes. So maybe he can learn a little bit. And I do think Bones Highland is one of those guys who has a ton of potential. But once again, you know, I do think this Clippers bench gives them the edge in this spot against a Kings team who is coming in off a back-to-back. This Clippers team is also better defensively, and they run a far slower pace than that of the Sacramento Kings. So if the Clippers can get this Kings team to play their style of basketball, to slow the game down, to run through Paul George, to run through Kawhi Leonard, I see the Clippers covering this spread, so I'm going to be with the Clippers -6.5 here.
I like that play. I also, I mean, obviously, one thing that I looked at for this one was also on the total. I do have a best bet on the side, and I'll talk about it later during that best bet section. But from a side perspective, I think, I mean, from what I'm hearing, it seems like you would probably lean towards the under too, right, Matt? Oh, my bad. So I think one thing that I was looking at was towards the under here. The reason why is because of the back to back here. I know we don't know exactly who's playing or not playing for the Kings here. I do expect everyone to play, but if you look at the Clippers side, pretty much they've been a real strong under team at home for the most part of this season. I'm looking at the Clippers at home, 21-6-1 to the under. They are coming off a huge over game right before the All-Star break where they played the Warriors. They went over the total by like 30 points. And right now I'm looking at the total. It opened up at 231.5, and now I'm seeing 237.5. 238.5 at some books. So I feel like it's come to the point where the total has seemed really high, way
Yeah,
too high to the point where I want to take the under here. So I would say from
I
a
like that.
total perspective that I would probably lean towards the under in this spot here. Matt, from your breakdown earlier, does it seem like you're leaning towards the under a little bit too?
Oh, 100%. Just hearing you talk about that, I might make that an official play. Honestly, I think that is a great look, especially with the Kings coming in on that back to back. Again, going back to Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, I think they match up very well against this Kings team. The Kings scorers on top of that. So for me, yeah, and on top of that, what was when it's 240 or higher, it was like I forget what that are against the spread. Trend was, but it's hitting the under at like over an 80-85% rate. So just like honestly, you can blindly, if you see a 240 total, half the time you can just shut your eyes and take the under, and it's a pretty good bet without even
Yeah, that
looking at
actually
anything.
hit yesterday too. I think it was the Thunder game, the Thunder Jazz that went under. Initially the Kings game with the Blazers was 242, and then after Lillard and Grant were out, it moved down to 235. So that threshold ended up going under, and it didn't. Obviously, it went over. But yeah, that 240, you're almost close to that 240 mark. I feel like the 238.5 that we're seeing now on this Clippers game might be the highest it goes. I think there's going to be
Yeah,
some buyback to the under pretty soon. So if you do like that under, I would say take it now rather than later, because That's just how I feel. I think that might be the spot there. The other thing that I like here, and I'm just gonna go straight into the best bet section because it's gonna be on the side for this game here. But when I look at the Kings here on the second leg of back-to-back games, I do want to mention. I think you mentioned their second leg of back-to-back games was 5-4 ATS or something like that. But I looked at it specifically on the second leg of back-to-back games versus teams with a winning record. 1-3 ATS in those spots. The one game they covered was against the Mavs at home, which was the first game with Kyrie and Luka. So they didn't really have the chemistry together at that point. The other thing to mention, the Kings in home to road dog travel spot. So home to road dog, that's what they're in today versus teams with a winning record. So they played the Suns, they played the Grizzlies, they played the Bucks in that spot. They lost all three of those games by double digits. And I would say that in this spot here with the Clippers, I would say that they're comparable teams to those teams that they faced. So I would think that would be a way to look there. Another thing to mention is the sorry, the Clippers here. On the Clippers side, Clippers are 5-1, straight up 4-2 ATS in two games. With Kawhi Leonard in the game as home favorites, and that's the spot they're in today. There's a lot of situations where Kawhi missed games this season, but in the ones that he has played, they've been doing really well in those spots, and he will be in the lineup today. He's such a key part to that Clippers team. I also looked at how the Clippers do with extended rest, with at least 4 days or three or 4 days of rest or more. They're 2-0 straight up and against the spread and to the over in those games, but for the most part, they're limiting their opponents in those games under their team total. They're winning those games by double digits as well. And Kawhi Leonard did play in those games. I know I mentioned Zubac will be a big piece missing, but one thing that you mentioned, Matt, was Plumlee. Plumlee is going to be a huge addition to this piece, especially when he moves back down to the bench and Zubac goes back to the starting lineup. One thing that he does well is rebound the ball and both offensively and defensively. So we're going to be able to get some second chance points here for the Clippers, even without Zubac in the lineup. The one thing that I did mention too, that I keep mentioning is Kawhi. The importance of Kawhi of this lineup. They've been doing so much well offensively and defensively when he's in there. And the first time around, he wasn't in the game against the Kings, and it was a much tighter game. So to me, I think the Clippers take advantage of the rest advantage here. Even though the Kings did have some guys play only 25 minutes, I still think that the Clippers take advantage of the second leg of back-to-back games. They should win and cover as 6.5-point favorites at home. Matt, what are your thoughts on I want to go back to Plumlee real quick because I think it was a good thing that you mentioned. He was a great rebounding prop to take when he was with the Hornets. If we think this is an under game, we think that the Kings are gonna struggle offensively here. Should we look at Plumlee rebounds?
Yeah, I mean, Plumlee rebounds is always a good look. You know, they do have guys like Kawhi who crashes the boards as well, and Paul George who does a little bit of everything. But in this spot, when you're matched up against someone like Domantas Sabonis, who is definitely someone who attacks the offensive boards, and he's someone who also attacks both sides of the glass, I should say. Mason Plumlee is going to have to box him out, and he's going to have to be around the rim. Sabonis is not someone who really stretches out the court all that much either. On top of that, and I give Plumlee the size advantage and the height advantage. So if you're around the basket that much, with someone like Sabonis who isn't going to be stretching it, their backup as well is Azili or something along those lines, another guy who does not stretch the court whatsoever. So Mason Plumlee is going to find himself around the rim the majority of the game, as long as he stays out of foul trouble, which he does get a little ticky-tacky sometimes. But as long as he gets his full run, full minutes, I fully expect him to have, a 10-rebound game here.
I like it. I just wanted to get your take on that because obviously I'm not a prop guy, but I like the fact that you brought Plumlee up in that situation. Matt, what's your best bet for today's show? Also, what do you got going on over at on the premium side?
Yeah, right now I already have one play loaded on the premium side. I loaded this one last night. It's actually a player prop. And yeah, like I was saying earlier, I'm 10-2 over my last 12. I actually took a look at how I was doing with props on the season. I'm hitting player props at a 55% rate on the season with over 300 loaded or something along those lines. So I definitely put out a lot of props and just want to keep it rolling. We're on a good streak right now. Actually took it a step further. I'm number one in player props over the last 30 days, number one in player props over the last 7 days. So definitely seeing things very well right now. Hopefully you got that Franz Wagner prop last night that hit. So tonight, though, we are going to be looking at the Golden State Warriors, and we're going to be looking at Jordan Poole over 26.5 points. Jordan Poole and the Golden State Warriors face off against the Houston Rockets tonight at home. This is a 10.5 point spread and a 231.5 point total. You guys do know I don't like taking player props with big spreads, but I do think this is a spot where the Houston Rockets can find a way to keep this close enough that Jordan Poole still goes out and gets this done, hitting this over 26.5. This is a bounce or a back-to-back for the Golden State Warriors, also a bounce-back situation. And, I think Jordan Poole is definitely the guy that you look to against this Houston Rockets team. This Houston Rockets team does run the 10th pace in all of basketball while the Warriors run the first. They're also 28th in overall defense throughout the entire NBA, 26th in points given up, and 24th in three-point percentage allowed. All of that fuels right into Jordan Poole. I think, again, Jordan Poole is due for a bounce back after shooting 3 for 13 from the field last night. A rare low shooting volume night for Poole on top of that. When you see Jordan Poole getting 20-plus shots, which I think could very well happen tonight as long as this stays close, he is 11-4 to hitting the over 26.5 in his last 15. Tonight, there's once again no Steph Curry. There's no Andrew Wiggins. So again, the majority of the volume should come through Jordan Poole and Klay Thompson. For the point guard position, on top of that, there is actually no better team to go up against throughout the entire NBA than the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets to the point guard position are giving up 28.15 points per game, which is worst throughout the entire NBA. And they're also giving up 9.52 assists per game to the point guard position, which is also dead last throughout the NBA. So if you wanted to, you could even do a points plus assist type thing. But for me, when Jordan Poole starts getting aggressive, when he starts seeing a couple shots go in, he doesn't tend to pass as much. He likes to pass when he's struggling a little bit. And this is one of those nights where I think Jordan Poole gets it going early and often. Again, this is an ideal matchup for Poole. He's one of those guys who likes to get out and run. He likes to attack the basket. He likes to take a lot of three-point shots on top of that. And that is exactly what this Houston Rockets team allows. If you've watched this Houston Rockets team all season long, you know when they're on the road, they play very little defense. And lucky for them, this is a hobbled Golden State Warriors team. So even though it's a 10.5 point spread, because there's no Steph, because there's no Wiggins, I do think there's still a chance that this does stay close. And again, close enough for Poole to get over this 26.5. I think it goes at least 3/4, and that might be all Poole needs here. So for me, it's Jordan Poole over 26.5 points tonight.
Love it. I love that play a lot. I mean, we were joking right before the show. Maybe Eric was talking about how maybe the Golden State Warriors bring some girls to the front row to get Poole hyped up for the game. I don't doubt that happens. To be honest, I think
when the honeys are there, it's really a Poole night.
Exactly. I love that angle. I love it. I actually hope that actually happens. So, what are you? Do you have anything for this weekend? I know we have UFC this weekend, some other stuff going on as well. Do you have any other things going on the premium side for this weekend?
Yeah, I do. So for the main card, I have a total play already locked and loaded over there. And for the prelims as well, I have the first fight of the prelims. I really like a play in that matchup. So yeah, I got a couple plays locked and loaded for the UFC fight night. I believe I've hit my last 3. So looking good in the UFC as well. Seeing the NBA really well right now, seeing the UFC really well right now, and just trying to make a nice push to the NBA playoffs and close this season strong. Like I said, I'm hitting those player props around 55% right now. Would love to make a push for 60% to close the season. Again, 10-2 last 12, so let's just keep this rolling.
I love it. Yeah, I know this weekend it's Friday, so that's why I really want to mention the weekend. But I do have
Yeah.
some soccer plays coming up. We got the UFC coming up, and also we obviously got NBA and college basketball. We all touch on different sports here, so I know we have a 7 day all NBA pass here for $39 for myself, Matt, and Joe D'Amico, even though he's not here today. But definitely check that out if you just really want to focus on the NBA. But we also have all access packages as well, and like I mentioned, we're all doing pretty well outside of just the NBA. I believe I'm actually number one in profit so far in the MMA for Sports Memo so far this season. So hopefully I just continue to do well in that spot. Soccer as well, doing well in soccer. Went 2-1 yesterday. Have a one play today as well. So yeah, really just touching on a lot of things, and I think we're getting into a pretty good stride here, picking up a lot of momentum, especially since the beginning of the year. But with that said, man, we have our next show on Monday, same time, 10 a.m. Pacific, on the same channel here. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and set up your alerts so you know when we're up and running here on the Triple Double Show. Till Monday, guys. Good luck with all your action. Take care. Peace.
Peace.
How do you like to finish the college basketball season paying under $30 per week? Between now and Selection Sunday on March 12th, there's still tons of regular season college basketball action to go. Plus, all of the conference tournaments and Wager Talk and Sports Memo are announcing their March Madness Bonanza special that will include the rest of the college basketball regular season, conference tournaments, NCAA tournament through the national championship, and any plays released in the NIT or CBI tournaments. That's right, from Monday, February 27th through Monday, April 3rd, there are 5 full weeks of hoops action, which breaks down to under $30 per week. Sign up for this promotion now on your favorite handicapper's homepage and get the rest of the college basketball season through the national championship in Houston on Monday, April 3rd, plus all non-March Madness tourneys, including the NIT and CBI, all for only $149. That's under $5 a day for one of the best betting experiences in sports. Some call March Madness the most exciting time in sports betting, so act fast as the March Madness Bonanza special is only available for a limited time. Grab your favorite college basketball handicapper, or perhaps add 2 or 3 college hoops experts to make this March Madness not only exciting, but also profitable. No coupon is needed. Just head to the homepage of the handicapper of choice and lock the $149 price in now. As the earlier you sign up, the more days you receive.